Monday Ramble.
Hello and welcome to the latest Monday Ramble. I'm Tom Bull and I'm delighted to be joined once again by my father, Stephen Bull. Welcome, Dad.
Thank you.
Obviously, the Virtual Grand National at the weekend was the big talking point. Wonderful to see the simulation that stopped a nation. What were your take on it? I mean, do you think it was a good substitute for the real thing, or, I mean, did it leave you kind of wanting more and missing the actual Aintree marathon that we all so know and love?
Well, it was obviously a long way from the real thing, but it's a hell of a lot better than nothing, frankly. I mean, to those of us who, are racing fans, and for me particularly, the National is the race of the year, actually. And, I'm thinking about the National even before the Cheltenham Gold Cup, really.
Absolutely.
So this year, obviously, I mean, although one's got to get these things into perspective, one was feeling a terrible sense of withdrawal from one's normal oxygen at this time of year. So it was great that it was put on. I mean, the technology is very impressive. It's not perfect, obviously. Every now and again you thought the horses in the front were going to be falling, even though they weren't falling. And I'm sure the graphics will get better as time goes on. But, there's already a big improvement, isn't there, between how it is now and how it was even 5 years ago. It was great to see it, and a lot of effort went into it. It was a good result in the end. I think the $2.5 million went to the NHS. I made a very modest profit, hardly worth passing on to anybody, because I didn't back Potter's Corner because, of course, he wouldn't like the ground. But there we are. One's really, if one's going to have a bet, one's really betting against the algorithms, and one didn't really know how many variables were being fed into the mix anyway. So I had a little on Walk in the Mill, who I would have backed anyway for the real thing. So it was great fun. There was plenty of things to talk about, like Arso, would he really have been in such a prominent position so far down the line? I'm not so sure about that.
Well, I mean, very well put, actually. Interestingly enough, a lot of people beforehand were saying, well, I don't know if it's going to be as exciting as the real thing. Will I get so involved? Will I get so into it? And yet, well, as you say, when ASO came to the second last, 5 lengths clear and fell, there was a huge kind of shriek of disbelief in our household. And likewise, when Walk in the Mill was coming with a flying late flourish towards the end of the race, we actually thought he was going to catch Potter's Corner, didn't we?
Yeah.
The way they did it was very good, actually. It's difficult to know how much the algorithm takes into chance comes into it, isn't it, really? And how much the people behind it have a say. Well, I don't think they probably do have much of a say, because if they did, Potter's Corner probably wouldn't have won, because, as you say, he needs a bit of a bog.
Yes, I mean, the interesting thing is that most of the horses that seem to fall or get brought down or refuse from early on were actually the outsiders, and so one suspects there's obviously how can one put it? There's an inbuilt tendency to favour the shorter price horses, the ones who the bookmakers anyway have sort of priced up as according to what their chances seem to be. So that was quite interesting. Of course, that wouldn't really have necessarily happened in real life anyway. I mean, I remember still with a lot of pain when I thought Himalayan Trail was nailed on to win the National I don't know when it was about 15 years ago now or something. I thought, God, this horse has got to win. He ticked every single box plus a few more that nobody'd thought of. And he fell at the first. I mean, I know he wasn't a favourite or anything, but that, of course, has happened as well. I mean, short price horses do fall early on. So, one's got to take all this with a pinch of salt and in the spirit of which it's offered, which is that it's a substitute. It's never going to be the same, but you could still get quite excited about it.
Absolutely. And one of the real reminders for me that it was just a graphic was the fact that there were some very stinky rides, given particularly one by Rachel Blackmore on Burrow Saint, who pushed him far too prominent, far too early.
Yep.
And actually James Best, who went about 25 wide on Walk in the Mill, and almost certainly would have won had he not done that. But obviously these are just avatars, so you can't actually be annoyed at the jockeys themselves.
I hope their careers won't suffer as a result of this. Charlie Deutsch was obviously in agony when he watched his horse fall while he was riding it.
Indeed, yes.
So,
There's quite a funny video on Twitter of that, actually. Well, obviously it was a simulation this year. Hopefully next year will be a lot less virtual and a lot more real. Do you think Tiger Roll, at 11 years old next year, can come back and win again?
Well, I didn't think he was going to win this year, although obviously it suits him greatly, and he's a terrific horse, and he can't be faulted really. But he had that weight to carry, and he was always going to be in a place, I think, first 6 anyway, it was pretty much certain. It's another year next year, isn't it? So who knows if he has a good preparation. He won't obviously be given much slack by the handicapper. So it's going to be more difficult for him, I think. So, I mean, anyway, I'm personally never back anything less than 10 to 1 anyway. So he's not going to be any great interest to me apart from, academic interest.
Absolutely,
watching a terrific horse.
Definitely.
But I don't think it's going to. I think his chance is gone, I'm afraid, of emulating the Great Red Rum.
Well, I'd rather agree. If he did go and win next year, it would be something quite special. It'd be interesting to see whether or not he goes to Cheltenham, actually, for the cross-country chase. Obviously, I think that didn't knacker him out a bit this year. But it's a very exciting prospect to actually look forward to the real thing next year. Hopefully we'll be virus-free and we can all look forward to it with great relish when racing returns properly.
Love it.